Welcome everyone. I can see that we've got a packed audience in the room today. And Joanna and Carrie and Jessel, I can see them in the room now. They have put together a very interesting and hopefully a very useful morning and afternoon session if you're staying for the afternoon. But the most important thing is you have lunch in the middle of that. I'm really sorry I can't be there in person today, but as you can see, I've used some of the technology to get a presentation together so I can do this particular presentation even though I'm not in the room. So isn't technology amazing? And it's one of the themes I'd like you to think about as you go through today, because there's so much more we can use and do if we can combine the technology that's available to us and the passion and desire that we have in the work that we do. One of the interesting ones would be something called Periscope, where in future we can have this event and still have it available for others to see, view and hear even if they can't attend the event. I'd like to start every event that we do with something that's a little bit upbeat, that's going to make us a little bit happy before we start doing the work. So I have a short story for you. So there I was on a Sunday morning at my church, and the vicar was giving us a sermon. And in the middle of it, he said, "I've got some good news for you, and I've got some bad news for you." Now the good news is we have all the money that we need to repair the clock tower. The bad news is that money is still in your pockets. Now to the most important bit of today. What exactly is space? So my job is just to give you a broad understanding of the organisation, Slough Prevention Alliance, community engagement. And it's a consortia model. And there are four key members of the consortia which has a legal relationship with each other. That's Slough Council for Voluntary Service, Royal Voluntary Service, Slough Community Transport and Shop Mobility, and Crossroads. Underneath that sits the forum, the alliance, or what we would call the associates. Now there are going to be three types of associates, and they're likely to be in this room today. There'll be some associates, charities and community groups, where we, Space, have a direct contract with you to deliver certain services to a certain specification, with monitoring and evaluation as part of that. There'll be other associates that are delivering services to residents in Slough, but they're getting direct payments. That would be from the personalised budgets that particular people would hold, and they are buying services from the charity or community group. And there'll also be associates where you've applied for money from the big lottery or from other trusts, or raised money yourself and you're delivering services in Slough. And it's the combination of all three working together that make up the alliance. There are three key principles on which we're working on: cooperation, coordination and collaboration. Cooperation would be about maybe having one common referral system so that we can refer clients to each other to make sure that particular individuals get a comprehensive service. I know that Joe's got a workshop in the afternoon in the Information and Advice Forum to look at agreeing a common referral system. Coordination could, for example, be one carer's calendar, so that dozens of organisations have got various events for carers, and we can put it in one location and make sure that people aren't doing everything's not happening, let's say, on a Monday, and that things are spread around both in terms of the calendar and in terms of their location, so that we have events in Britwell as well as Chalvey as well as Langley. Collaboration is where we really get together and tackle some of the bigger issues, and that could be, for instance, tackling loneliness, to making sure that we have one leaflet that we can communicate to residents with, a range of activities that are happening that are going on in the borough, where lots of small charities are running events, and that could be a seated aerobics in Chalvey, it could be a lunch club in Langley, and it could be a walk down by Britwell. What's the easiest way to understand what space is really all about? And these bricks, Lego bricks that you see, is one way of getting to an understanding of that. Slough is incredibly unique. We have over 400 small community groups and charities in Slough, all doing unique things. They could be working in a particular community, like the Zimbabwean community, for example, or they might be delivering a very specific service to blind people, for example, or they might be working in a very specific location, like Britwell, and providing a service in that area. And they're all doing excellent work. Our objective, though, is to see if we can add and enhance the value of that particular work. So let me demonstrate this with an example. Let's say there are 3 charities and we're all working together for a particular outcome. That is to help a young person get a job. You can see one charity is excellent at providing a CV writing service. Another charity is very good at preparing that young person for interviews. And a third charity can help that young person do job search and therefore find jobs to which to apply for. Now, if they all do an excellent job, but the young person only ever goes to one particular charity, and let's say they went to charity number 1, they'd be great at CVs, they would be able to get interviews, but they wouldn't be able to get the job. If they only ever went to charity number 3, they would be able to really identify the jobs that they could apply for, but when they applied, their CV would be so poor they wouldn't get the interview. So that best result would be that that young person can pass through all those charities, getting the best possible service, and as a result of which, not only can they find the job, not only can they then get the interview because they've got a very good CV, but when they get the interview, they'll be well prepared and well skilled to get the job. In essence, that's what we're trying to do, is get everybody to collaborate, cooperate, and coordinate their activities so that we can produce more with what we're currently doing. And so one way to look at this would be to say that space is the architect of order, and together we can start to build certain projects from what currently happens. Let me illustrate this with an example of how we can tackle loneliness. So loneliness is a very big issue. It's something that leads to a lot of ill health and social isolation. And so one of the ways that we can do it is we can have, through the Consortia, a promotional campaign to tackle loneliness. We can have a coordinated strategy both with the local authority and with the voluntary sector to make an impact. We can try and see if we can get extra funding from the big lottery for local charities to deliver more activities to tackle loneliness. We can combine that with having one leaflet that we can communicate to residents and to potential users of our services. And within that framework, we're likely to have a number of charities which will be fully funded with staff and volunteers to provide certain services, and one of them could be, for instance, befriending, where volunteers go into the house of someone who is elderly and frail and perhaps lonely. We could have all of the community groups in Slough running social activities. There could be, as I've mentioned before, things like seated aerobics in one location. There could be the organisation of social activities like a dance class in another community hall. There could be lunch clubs being organised by particular groups like people with dementia. And you start to then grow all the social activities that you need. We could also bring into that places like care homes where special activities could take place in partnership with the voluntary sector. And don't forget, we can also start to use some of the businesses that are around in Slough who also want to make a difference and contribute to the work that charities and community groups do. And we could end up in a scenario where we could have lunch clubs all across Slough in places like pubs, cafes and community halls. This is an example of a service funnel, and this particular one is around information and advice, where there's a kind of universal service that lots of people can use, and as you go further and further down there are more intensive support services that are available. But the common aim of all those services in this particular case is to enable people to be healthy, to live long and prosper. So people can phone up, or an individual might phone up around information and advice, and as a result of which they may have their problem solved through a 10-minute intervention by shelter, or they may have to come into shelter to meet with an advisor where their problem is worked upon and solved, as a result of which they may end up using other services. For instance, if they're a refugee, they may also be referred to Slough Refugee Support. As part of that process, we may say, do you know what, it would be really good for them to carry out some healthy activities, and maybe they can join a walk, and that could be accessed through community navigators and through a specialist website called sloughhealth.org. It could be that someone comes to us who is isolated and alone, and they can benefit from like befriending. And so the purpose of Space is to provide certain services which are available to everybody, and then to provide more and more intensive support to vulnerable clients where we need to build resilience for health and well-being. And part of the process is for all of us to work together to have one strong vision. Our main aim at the end is promoting and supporting the well-being of residents by using the voluntary sector to make a difference. Sorry I couldn't be there in person. I hope you have a useful day, and I'll see everybody when I get back on Monday. Bye for now, and I'll pass you over to Joanna, who will run the rest of the day.